meeting of Columbia Rotary Club. We'll start off with a beautiful rendition of the Star Spangled Banner with Audrey Brown and Rusty to Pass. Thank you. And now, the Right Reverend Rex Wilson will lead us in prayer.
So kind. Thank you. Let us pray. Almighty God, we give you thanks for this glorious day and for family and for friends. We give you thanks for the fellowship of Rotary. We pray that we might continue always to focus on service above self. Lord, remind us today, remind us every day, when we are working for the least of these, we are working for you. Bless this food that it will nourish us and bless our lives for the service of others. We pray all of this in the name of one everlasting and almighty God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rex. Karen Blackman will introduce visiting Rotarians and guests. And while we're waiting for her, why don't you stand up and shake hands with somebody you don't know real well, okay?
Good afternoon. I have Andy Kalin with me. Andy is our Assistant Director for Human Resources for Palmetto Health.
Good afternoon. I have Allie Smalls with me. She's the Career and Personal Development Specialist at the Olympia Learning Center. And just so you guys know, what they do is teach 21st century skills, connect with the community and business to prepare children for higher education in the workforce environment.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled to have with me today Dr. Alice Taylor Colbert and Dr. Chris Nesmith from USC Palmetto College. We are delighted that we're working with Mayor MacDougall in the city of Lexington on several projects, and we've spent the morning there working on Palmetto College. Thank you.
I'm Jim Morris with the South Carolina Council on Economic Education, and I have as my guest Amanda Stiegelbauer. She is our new program director, and we stole her from the Lexington side of the river. She just left River Bluff High School, where she was an AP economics teacher. So we're glad to have her on board. She's twins and a husband who's also an economics teacher, so they're deep in that stuff.
One more. You have a guest. Nick Galante, you'll say. I'm Carrie Powers. Nick Galante is with me today, and he is the president of the Animal Mission.
Okay, I'll stop now. Make one mistake. That's all I get today.
Very good, thank you. Is this working? It is working, right? Just got to be real close. Okay. I have two announcements I'd like to make. I want to remind everybody, hopefully you've seen it on emails, but we are sharing, co-sponsoring or supporting, I guess, a blood drive with the Capital Rotary Club. As you know, there's always a huge need for blood, but in the summertime, that need is even greater. There is a blood shortage in Columbia right now, and so this Wednesday, the 27th of July, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., there will be a blood drive going on at 1333 Main Street, which is the CB Richard Ellis building on Main Street. And if you would like to make an appointment, you can go online to redcrossblood.org. and you can make an appointment in advance so you won't have to wait. So please consider that and help out with the short blood supply right now. And I want to also remind you again that August 9th is our baseball night for all of the Rotary clubs in the Midlands, and we'll be at Firefly Stadium on that evening, and I hope that you will buy a ticket and join us. The Fireflies folks are back outside in the hall, so if you'd like to buy a ticket while you're here today, you can do that. And now I'd like to introduce Bob Crutchfield, who will do our health and happiness.
One of the things that I told John I would do when I had this again is I would tell people how to pronounce his last name. Because it was spelled B-A-K-H-A-U-S. And Rusty told me 19 years ago, he said the way, and John doesn't know that's a problem. Rusty told me 19 years ago, he said, if you want to know how to pronounce it, just remember, John baked me a cake. Bacon. That's the way it's pronounced. Bacon. So there, they should all know. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in the community with our club. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday, Catherine Davis was elected Regional Director for the South of the National Association of Bench and Bar Spouses Incorporated. It's a one-year term, and they're in St. Louis. I'm not real sure I know exactly what that is, but it sounds very honorary to me. Sometimes you lose sight of who's still in this club or who's not in this club. I was sitting there reading the news, and I saw where Mike Maddock had been made publisher of the Columbia Star newspaper. I thought, well, gosh, that's great. And then I looked, and he's not in our club anymore. It's kind of like Satch Krantz one day was talking about when he was president, or after he was president, he took a 2-year leave of absence when he became president of the National Zoological Society. He was in line getting something to eat, hadn't been here in 2 years. Somebody behind him said, hey, I hadn't seen you in a couple of weeks, where you been? And it really happens that way if you don't stay on touch and move around and see different people that are here. A couple of, Margaret Clarkson, is Margaret here? That's the daughter of a wonderful long-term member, Crawford Clarkson we had. She's got a brother who we all know is a past president, but she just became Director of Marketing for Adventure. which is quite an honor for her. Is Hope Chetwood here? Okay, I got all the people who aren't here. Hope Chetwood. All of us know he's the Senior Vice President and the Midlands Marketing President for Wells Fargo. And what you may not know is he recently was elected Chairman of the Board of Directors for United Way of the Midlands. And along that, and joining him is somebody that's so quiet you hardly know he's here, but that's Mike Bedeker. Mike Bedeker is the retired CEO and President of Lexington Medical Center, and he's been elected to the Board of Directors of United Way, so he's given back since he's taken his retirement. Speaking of that, last week I sat at a table back at the back, and Jim Reynolds was there, and I really had not seen Jim in a couple of weeks, and I made that comment to him. He said, well, I appreciate that. He said, actually, I've been out on kind of a short leave as a caregiver, and he told me a little bit about that, and I would just ask that you keep Jim and his family in your thoughts and prayers. He was here, but he had to leave after he ate. Another thing, too, it's pretty amazing, I think, when you think about this club and you realize, just take political tags off, but from a Democratic point of view, you got 4 people that are just really bigwigs in South Carolina. They're going to that convention. 2 of them are going to speak. Clivert and Benjamin. And Benjamin's a member of this club. Now, it's an honorary member. He used to be a regular member until he got elected. But nevertheless, he's a member. And then if you look on the other side of the ledger, I've been in this club for 30 years. I've never seen us have anybody in this club that had the occasion to make a nominating speech for somebody for President of the United States. And he's not here, but I think you ought to give him a round of applause. Oh, he is here. He's here. Okay, I've been told they've got to cut this. Oh, I was told one more thing. Emerson Smith, I'm told, had an excellent letter to the editor of today's paper. I have not seen it. The person who told me that, I asked him what it was about. He said he couldn't remember. Anyway, it's excellent, I'm sure. Okay, let me pick a couple things and I'll get out of here so we can get on the program. But these are just some real quick funnies. My wife thought a couple of them were particularly funny for women. But anyway, I changed my password to incorrect so that whenever I forget, the computer will say your password is incorrect. Hospitality is the art of making guests feel like they're at home when you wish they were. If you keep your feet firmly on the ground, you'll have trouble putting on your pants. Ever stop to think and then forget to start again? Women spend more time wondering what men are thinking than men spend thinking. He who laughs last thinks slowest. Is it wrong that only one company makes the game Monopoly? This one you like to like. Women sometimes make fools of men, but most guys are the do-it-yourself type. Change is inevitable except from a vending machine. I was going to wear my camouflage shirt today, but I couldn't find it. If at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. And lastly, normally when you say lastly, you get applause. But anyway, lastly, this guy was at the doctor's office, and he asked the doctor, he said, how do you know that older people need to go to a nursing home? He said, well, we have this test. We put them in a tub, and in this tub, we give them a teacup and a teaspoon and a bucket. And the guy said, oh, I know what goes on now. Obviously, the correct answer for the normal person is to take that bucket because you get more water out of there faster. And the guy said, no, a normal person would pull the plug. You want a bed by the window, or where do you want it?
One of the most important responsibilities we have as Rotarians, I'm really sorry about that, as Rotarians is to support the Rotary Foundation. And I mentioned before that we are an international organization, and the Rotary Foundation does good work all over the world. So one of the things we're going to do this year is learn as much as we can about the Rotary Foundation. And we have a guest today who's come to talk to us a little bit about that. And I want to tell you about our guest who was kind enough to drive over here from Sumter to be with us today and talk about the foundation. Kay Oldhauser Davis has been a Rotarian since 1992. She was governor of our district in the year 2003 to 4. She was named Rotarian of the Year by her club in 2005 and District Rotarian of the Year in 2012. She has served 4 years as the District Rotary Foundation Chair and 4 years as the district's annual giving chair. During her time as district annual giving chair, one of those years, 2006 to 2007, the district set new records for annual giving, being named the #1 district in the world for annual giving to the fund. I want to introduce you to the lady that probably knows more about the foundation than anybody I know, so we're going to bring her up here today. Oh, let me. The other lady sitting next to Kay, and that's Ione Cockrell. Ione is the area assistant governor for Area 2, which is our area, and she's been very supportive of our club in lots of ways. I thank you for being here today, too.
Okay, hopefully it'll stay. Thank you, President John, for inviting me to talk about my passion, my Rotary passion, which is the Rotary Foundation. This is a very exciting year to be a Rotarian. It's the 100th birthday of our Rotary Foundation. It's the year that we very well see the last case of polio in the world. And it's also a year for your club that's very exciting as you celebrate your 100th birthday, and you have RI President John Durham coming to be with you to help you celebrate. So a very exciting year, and I hope you're looking forward to it and have a lot of exciting activities planned. Today, I'm going to speak a little bit about our foundation. Our foundation is a wonderful organization. It's a very complex organization, and I could spend several hours talking, but I'm not going to. What I want to do, though, is to look back 100 years, and don't worry, I'm not going to take it year by year to get to this day. Back in 2017, at the International Convention in Atlanta, then RI President Arch Plump presented the idea of establishing an endowment that would do good in the world. That's the purpose. That was our foundation's purpose then. That's the purpose of our foundation today, is to do good in the world. And that means doing good here as well as doing good overseas. The first donation to this new idea, this Rotary endowment, which became the Rotary Foundation, was a check from the Rotary Club of Kansas City for $26.50. And if you haven't already, you're going to hear that amount used over and over and over again in terms of challenge you to do $26.50 more, all sorts of ways we'll use that, or $256, or $256,000. All sorts of ways we can multiply that $26.50. In today's dollars, that amounts to about $536. So even in today's dollars, that's a small contribution to start something that becomes the amazing organization that it becomes. Arch Plump's vision was named the Rotary Foundation in 1928, but the foundation really grew very slowly until the death of our founder, Paul Harris, in 1947. At his death, Rotarians found the foundation the perfect way to honor him, to remember him, and at the time after his death, $1.3 million was given in his honor. Finally, the foundation had some money to do something with, something that could make a difference in the world. Ever since then, our foundation has been busy changing lives here, changing lives all over the world. During the 70 years since the death of Paul Harris, the Rotary Foundation has grown tremendously, both in assets and in programs. It's extended its reach to every part of the world and expanded its scope to include large and small projects that address the most pressing needs of the world. And all of this is made possible through the generosity of Rotarians. By and large, the dollars that go into our Rotary Foundation come from us as Rotarians. Our foundation is primarily funded by us, and we are the primary workers in the field using those foundation dollars, which makes it very special. Arch Plump once noted that the Rotary Foundation is not to build monuments of brick and stone, Instead, he envisioned a growing, evolving entity that would be fueled by the active support and participation of all Rotarians. That's still the dream, that every Rotarian in the world will participate somehow with our foundation, even if it's only giving the $26.50. The foundation and Rotary International's only corporate project throughout the history of the Rotary Foundation and Rotary is to eradicate polio. And I've got some very good news to share on that front. As of the latest World Health Organization report that was issued last Thursday, July the 21st, there have been 19 cases of polio during 2016 compared to 33 at the same time in 2015. Significant decrease. There are only two countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan. There were 6 cases in Afghanistan compared to 5 in 2015, so basically the same in Afghanistan. The dramatic difference is in Pakistan. 13 cases this year compared to 28 in 2015. Pakistan does not want to be the last country with polio. Their government, the Taliban, everybody is now behind trying to eradicate polio in Pakistan. Even more exciting than the number of cases are the results of all the scientists who are going out into the sewers and other places to do the environmental sampling. There have been no cases of the wild polio virus found in any of the samples in Afghanistan since December 2015. There have been none found in Pakistan since May of 2016. There's a very good possibility, some say even a real probability, that we will see the last case this year. That gives me goosebumps. I hope it does you. This would not have happened without Rotarians. Bill Gates, who's become a strong supporter with his dollars, millions of his dollars, has said the world would not be this close without Rotary and its leadership. So something we can be very proud of. So I ask you, have you, as an individual, made your personal contribution to polio? Will you be able to say, when we celebrate the end of polio, that you personally helped make it happen through your dollars? That's my challenge to you, is to make sure you have a personal role in us eliminating polio. President John Germ will be here with you in December. You may not know, but he was the chair of the International Polio Committee before he became Rotary Club president. So polio definitely is very dear to his heart. But polio is not the only need in the world, and when we finish polio, we'll still need the foundation. Listen to some of the other reasons why we still need our foundation. 45% of the world lives in extreme poverty. 13 million starve to death each year. 1 billion go to bed hungry each night. Every 3 seconds, a child dies from starvation. 1 billion have no access to health care. According to the World Health Organization, 2/3 of the children who die could be saved with basic health care. Every 60 seconds, a child goes blind. 1/2 of the people in developing countries become sick because of the lack of clean water. 40% of people do not have basic sanitation. 25,000 die from contaminated water every day. 6,000 of these are children. Literacy, we know, provides the escape from poverty, and the greatest predictor of a person's health is their level of education. However, 26% of the world's population cannot read or write. 2/3 of the world's illiterate are women. I could go on and on and on with these statistics. We know they're around the world. We also know they're here in South Carolina in our own backyard. The Rotary Foundation can help us change lives, one life at a time in some cases, by tackling these problems here and overseas. So how well is your club, the largest, the oldest club in this district, doing and supporting the work of the foundation? Your all-time giving, so over the 100 years of the foundation, this club has given a total of $1.4 million. That's a big amount, but not really over 100 years. I challenge you to do better. I've got lots of other statistics I can show that show you're not doing what you're capable of doing, and I hope you will do better, especially during this foundation centennial year. We need you. Our district needs you to be a strong foundation club. We need you to lead the way for all those clubs that you chartered, that you're the mother of. We need you to lead by example. I want to conclude by reading parts of a letter I received right after President John called me and asked me if I'd come talk about the foundation. I got this letter in the mail and I thought how perfect it is. Some of you, if you're major donors, received the letter also, but I think what it says speaks to all of us. Kaylin Banerjee is the trustee of the Rotary Foundation for our centennial year. He's also a past Rotary and national president. And here's what he has to say. After 100 years, the Rotary Foundation is still fulfilling the mission envisioned by Arch Klump in 1917 to do good in the world. I hope that you will join me in celebrating this historic event in your club and in your community. Born in the heat of a world war, our foundation grew up during a global depression and a second world war, and is today one of the world's leading organizations dedicated to building peace through service. The Rotary Foundation has a wonderful story to tell, one of vision, compassion, and generosity. Our centennial year offers us an opportunity to spotlight our foundation's inspirational achievements and share our extraordinary story with the world. Our foundation began with modest projects that helped relatively small groups of people and gradually expanded our scope and reach. Today, still community-based, we are transforming millions of lives around the world through our high-impact global grant projects. With international understanding and peace as our ultimate goal, we are attacking the root causes of conflict, poverty, disease, lack of education, and preparing tomorrow's peacemakers at our Rotary Peace Centers. I am convinced that the world would not be this close to being polio-free without Rotary's commitment of $1.5 billion and the 1,000 Rotarians who have volunteered to ensure that every child is immunized against this devastating disease. I attribute our foundation's great success directly to your generosity and participation. Without the unwavering commitment of Rotarians like you, ours would have been a far different story. As we celebrate and look forward, I think we can all agree that the world needs the Rotary Foundation more than ever. I invite you to become a centennial donor if you've not already done so, to ensure that our foundation can continue its vital work throughout the world. Today we can build on our history of success. Today we can save and transform more lives, make history by eradicating polio, and strive to bring peace to the world. It's up to us to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Like I said, nobody knows more about the foundation, at least of the people I know, than Kay. Now, President-elect Kerry will introduce our main speaker today, and I think you will enjoy what he has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, President John. Good afternoon, everyone. It's kind of hot in here, or I'm experiencing my own personal summer. I'm not sure, but it's a little bit hot this spring. I'm here to introduce Mayor Steve MacDougall. Mayor Steve MacDougall was elected to Town Council in Lexington in 2011, and he became the mayor in 2013. He was raised in Lexington and has a background in hospitality, business management, and he was also a public safety officer. During his time in office, Steve has developed a long list of accomplishments, some of which he's going to discuss with us today. He's demonstrated exceptional leadership in a town that's just 15 miles west of Columbia, and we've experienced an explosion of economic and commercial residential growth. Lexington is no longer that sleepy lakeside community, but we're a major player, and I say we because I am a resident of the town of Lexington. We're a major player in the economic growth of the Midlands. We are famous for our traffic, but if you ever visit the town of Lexington, you'll see that the small town appeal is alive and well. And that small town includes a mayor who pulls stranded motorists out of the snow with his truck and cooks hot dogs on Halloween for trick-or-treaters and law enforcement in his front yard. Mayor MacDougall has a long history as an entrepreneur in the hospitality industry. Many of you may remember MacDougall's on Lincoln Street, right across from the convention center. He had that for a long time, and recently he took over the operations of Mr. D's Steak and Seafood in Lexington, and thank goodness we finally have a place to get a steak in Lexington. Steve is a dedicated father to his 3 daughters, Brittany, Cameron, and Addison, and his wife Jamie, who's a nurse at Lexington Medical Center in the ER. And soon he will take on the title of Grandpa when he welcomes his first grandchild in the fall. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Columbia Rotary welcome to Mayor Steve MacDougall.
Lexington is a town of a little less than 19,000 people. But by the end of business today, there will have been 136,000 people in our town limits. Since today's program started, 8,500 vehicles have gone through Main Street, and 15,000 have traversed Highway 378. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. It's my pleasure to be here and talk to you a little bit about Lexington. There's a huge clock in front of me, so I promise I won't be too long. But I could take up hours and hours and hours of your time talking and bragging about Lexington, but I promise not to do that. We'll keep it brief. Following our vision plan that we adopted in 2012, we filled a much needed void in our award-winning park, Character Park on Hendrick Street. We were fortunate to have received a grant from the County of Lexington to provide a restroom facility and place it on the current footprint that we had in that park. The facility itself arrived on a flatbed truck, and with a crane we were able to lift it off the truck, place it on its pad, hook up the plumbing and electricity, and it was operational. This year we will break ground on a new facility that will warehouse and store equipment from the police, transportation, utilities, and parks departments. All 4 of these departments have outgrown their current facilities. The utilities department employees will also be housed at the new facility. One of the goals of the vision plan was to create what we called a front porch. I'm happy to report that we have transformed 3 major intersections that lead into the town and placed a sign that welcomes you, making it very clear that you have arrived in the town of Lexington. Along with the welcome signs, we also wanted to beautify the Main Street corridor. As of today, all brick pavers are in place and the project is complete. This is just a sample of the positive work that happened last year. I could go for hours, like I said earlier, and tell you about all the wonderful things that we have done this year. For example, we refinanced all of our long-term bans and bonds, saving taxpayers in the town millions of dollars. We also raised our credit rating to an AA2, which gave us a lot more power on the borrowing side. The replacement of a water line that ran down Main Street from the top of Main all the way down to the old mill that has been in the ground since 1926. The awards, the recognition, and the graduation from the FBI National Academy within our police department. However, there are so many new projects that I'd like to touch on and share with you today. We'll get started on those. Project Ice House was our major project that we started out this year. It is a 900-seat amphitheater in the heart of downtown Lexington. This project started slow due to the record-setting rains that we experienced from October of last year into the first part of this year. But I'm happy to tell you the stage is almost complete and the beams are in place, and finish work will be done over the next 2 weeks. Along with the retaining wall on the Maiden Lane side of the seating bowl, the steps and seating area will be complete and should be complete by the end of the next 2 weeks. Framing on the 2-story building that will become the bathroom and green room is complete. Upper site work has begun, and they are preparing the plaza for fence planters and footings. This 900-seat amphitheater is still in the construction phase, has had the greatest impact on the revitalization of downtown and Main Street corridor. There is substantial interest in downtown properties, and discussions on current buildings and new construction is happening daily. We are in negotiations to sell a second property pad that will tie into the amphitheater and create more activity downtown. We are hopeful that completion of this project will happen by September. Annexations in the town of Lexington continue to happen on a monthly basis. In 2015, we had what we consider substantial growth. Year to date, as you can see, we are on pace to have a record year. Currently sitting at over 300 acres with a tax value of over $9 million. These next slides will give you a good illustration on just how much we've grown our borders. We started out in 1861, the town of Lexington was 1 square mile. In 1970, we began our first annexations. In 1980, we expanded. 1990, the year 2000, the year 2010, and last year, 2015. Within these annexations comes a fair amount of residential construction. Last year, almost half of the new home growth in the county was either in the town or in our service area. An added benefit to all this growth was the increase in the property values, as well with a substantial increase in the value of a newly constructed home. That number grew by almost 70%. Last year, we issued over 3,100 business licenses in the town, and we are on pace to exceed that number this year. Construction numbers are showing tremendous growth as well, and we will easily permit over 200 new homes and close in on 45 new commercial buildings with a $150 million construction value for this year. These are just an example of the recognizable logos that some of the new development we will see in the upcoming months throughout the town. Grocery stores, retail, restaurants, as well as a 3-stage senior living facility. If you notice, we have growth in all segments of our community. I wanted to share with you and show you expansion of our wastewater service area. We began in 2005, added more in 2010, and currently 2015, with a total of 4,832 homes. The entirety of our wastewater and water service area is shown here. The blue is wastewater, and water is in the green. I'm sorry, the green is just wastewater, the blue is wastewater and water. The other two areas are other outside providers that we have in our area. Both of these services have increased, and we are currently servicing over 9,000 water customers and 15,000 sewer customers. We are fortunate to have an abundant supply of water, with less than half of our daily capacity currently being expended. After a very, very long process, we were able to decommission the Coventry Woods wastewater treatment plant that lies in the center of town and saved approximately $400,000 a year in operational and maintenance costs. This is our fourth satellite plant that we have closed in line with the federal 208 plan and now process and treat that flow at our regional wastewater treatment facility in Casey, which opened in 2012. With the addition of the 1 million gallons that we diverted from Coventry to Casey, we now have a total flow of over 3 million gallons a day, with our capacity at a 12 million gallon a day rate. We were very fortunate to have closed that plant in the time we did, because the week after we closed that plant and shifted all the flow of that plant, we had the major flood in town. Had we not closed that plant, that million gallons of raw sewage would have been in the creek. Since January, phase 1 of the adaptive traffic signalization system is in progress and is expected to be complete in about 6 months. 5 of the 19 intersections are fully adaptive and live. These 5 signal groups have increased traffic flow on Main Street by almost 20%. 9 more of the intersections are expected to come online once fiber communications are fully implemented across the network. The remaining 5 require mass storm installations and are on schedule for late spring. The state-of-the-art computerized system controls our lights and helps alleviate congestion throughout the town in real time. With the use of cameras and a greedy algorithm, the system monitors intersections and, when necessary, changes the lights before and after the congested area to create a green light tunnel to ease traffic congestion. Phase 2, the signals here in red of this project, include 16 signalized intersections requiring right-of-way acquisition, which is being handled by SCDOT. After completion of all 35 intersections, Lexington will be the only town in the country that has this technology throughout the entire municipality, where all signals will work in unison to help reduce and control traffic. This past October, we took a very bold step and instituted the 2% hospitality tax. This is an effort to finally take the lead to improve traffic conditions throughout our town. These 3 projects, in conjunction with the adaptive signalization I touched on earlier, are currently being studied by 3 different engineering firms. Traffic improvement models are being approved by SCDOT and our staff. In addition to the amphitheater, we are adding a 250 space parking lot that will serve the amphitheater, Virginia Hilton Park, and all of our downtown businesses. Our first project will start construction in fall of 2016, and it is at a 90% design completion. The downtown improvement project, which will turn Highway 6 and Church Street into one-way pairs and help alleviate traffic congestion along Main Street, giving 40% more green light time to the Main Street corridor. Here are the models that we ran to determine the possible results. This being our existing AM traffic flow. As you can see, some of the cars are stacking up on Main Street, relatively large stacking that happens on Main Street because that road was built for probably 8,000 to 10,000 cars a day. Currently, we have 17,000 cars a day traveling Main Street. This is the traffic patterns that we are predicting by the year 2018. As you can see, the stacking along Main Street is greatly reduced with the conversion of the one-way pairs. Secondly, crossroad improvements at Lake Drive and Sunset Boulevard near Lexington Middle School are currently being studied by SCDOT to ensure the plan that we have presented is the best way to alleviate the congestion in that area. This would be a 40,000 car a day traffic circle. And lastly, a global traffic analysis is underway for the entire Corley Mill Road I-20 area. The objective is to determine a budget to be used upon completion of the long-range traffic plan from the town and SCDOT. It is very exciting to be a part of this community at this time, and it has been my goal, and always will be my goal, to grow the town respectfully and responsibly. I have enjoyed my time with you here today, and I'm honored to be the mayor of my hometown, a place where people want to live, work, play, and learn. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone would have. And Carrie, thank you very much for your invitation. John, thank you for having me today, and thank every one of you for your time. Yes, sir.
I noticed you put a roundabout in there. Is that more efficient than four-way stops or stoplights?
We know by studies that four-way stops, anytime you make a left turn, you're entering the most dangerous turn you can make while you're in your car. We know that roundabouts help alleviate traffic congestion because it's constant movement. It is not a stop-and-go scenario. The 40,000 car roundabout we are proposing adds 2 lanes on the outside, so if you're on Highway 6 traveling toward 378, you'll never get in the roundabout. You'll only come up and keep that motion flowing toward 378. Also the same way on 378, if you're coming into town and you want to continue on 378, you'll never have to enter the roundabout. You'll only stay continuous on 378. The only time you enter the roundabout is when you change direction. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Is it true there'll be a roundabout at the top of Corley Mill also?
That was a solution that was given to us some 4 years ago. Like I said, there is a study that is being done for the entire area so that we make sure once we make improvements, we do it for a larger portion and not just that one road, to make sure that we have area to grow in that area. But yes, that roundabout is still in talks for alleviating congestion in that area. Yes, sir.
What's Lexington County doing about becoming a no-kill at your animal shelter there?
You know, that's a good question. I don't have anything to do with that, but I could find out for you and certainly call you back and let you know what was going on with that. I don't know, to be quite honest with you.
You know, the city of West Columbia has moved to no-kill.
Yes, and I would favor that as well in Lexington County. I'm sure they're working toward doing something with that. Yes, sir. Anybody else?
I have it.
Yes.
So our club was greatly impacted by the flooding in October, and Lexington was devastated as well. Can you kind of touch on that and what's being done to help with that dam situation?
I'd be glad to. We had 3 major ponds in succession on 14 Mile Creek. We have 2 creeks that run through the town of Lexington. 14 Mile Creek is the one that was greatest impacted because of the failure of 3 dams. One at Mill Pond, which is right on Highway 1 as you're leaving Lexington. The one right upstream from it is Gibson Pond, and the one upstream from it is Bar Pond. We were luckily, we had Old Mill Pond drawn down 20 feet because it was in need of repair. And I say luckily because Had it been full, there would have been 400 million gallons of water traveling 14 Mile Creek. We actually had police officers up to their duty belt in houses, getting people out of their houses along the creek that were, as they knocked on the door, they woke them up. It was late at night, early in the morning before we got to some of them. The one that was probably closest to death was an 82-year-old woman who lived on the edge of the creek. She had no idea what was going on, was upset that we startled her out of her awake. But by the time we got her outside and got her in a patrol car, we looked back and her house fell off its foundation into the creek. So we were fortunate when that happened in the way those dams broke, that we didn't have all that water at one time, and it was actually kind of manageable. We have heard from FEMA last week on the Gibson Pond Dam, because it's the only one that is owned by the municipality, that they are going to come forward. That project has been moved to the top of the list because of the impact that it has on Highway 1, which is right beyond the old mill dam. Every time we have significant rain in the town, when the flood happened, it changed the stream from a 3-box culvert that goes under Highway 1 to a single box culvert. So anytime we have substantial rain in the town, we almost flood Highway 1, which you know is a federal highway. And for that to happen, I think is the reason we're getting some attention on the Gibson Pond Dam. We were fortunate to receive a grant from the federal government to do some stream cleanup. So that's going to allow us to divert that stream back over to the 3-box culvert, and also clean up all the trees and debris that came down through that creek bed and created such damage down through there. So we have worked, hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll find out the determination on Gibson Pond Dam. We advocated for Old Mill Dam because we had a walking trail planned for Old Mill. We were probably 60% complete on the surveying of that walking trail. We had a bridge built to go across the dam. We're just going to really tie that into one of our large parks there in town. So they said we had a very good argument for them to come help us with the Old Mill Pond. Whether they will or not is still up in the air. We know that that project is still kind of low on the priority list. Yes, sir.
Steve, there's talk again about Richland County and City of Columbia consolidating. Is with all the annexations that you guys are doing, what do you see long term happening in Lexington? Is there some consolidation perhaps in the future? Or
Are you talking about the law enforcement side of it?
Well, they're talking about again trying to merge city and county government on this side of the river. So
Yeah, I do not ever see that happening in the town of Lexington. It has gotten to a point where Lexington is a water and sewer service provider that owns a small town right now. That's going to change very shortly. We are projected to grow 80% in the next 10 years. So that town will be totally different 10 years from now. Yes, sir.
Steve, Jimmy Derrick, and of course you and I have been friends for a long time, and I'll tell you as a business person, when Steve took over as mayor, the whole concept of being nice to business changed, and it became very nice to do business in the town of Lexington, which once upon a time it was not fun to do business, and we really appreciate that as business people.
Well, I appreciate you saying that very much. We work very hard on that. I have, as you heard, I've been in the hospitality industry for 25 years, so I know a little bit about customer service, and that was the one thing that I impressed on staff when I became mayor. We are a customer service municipality. It has to be that way. We work for the people that live in our town, and it just has to be that way. We created what we call a one-stop shop. You can go to the 3rd floor of our municipal building. If you're opening a business or having anything to do with your business, you can talk to every person from every department in one office. And we feel like that really had a help in creating an atmosphere that changed rather quickly. Yes, sir.
And you have said this, but what is the population of the city of Lexington versus Lexington County population?
The town of Lexington currently is at 19,000. The population of the county is roughly 275,000. Yes, sir.
What kind of pushback do you get on your annexation program?
Actually,
Here, nobody wants to be enclosed. So they resist it any way they can.
Actually, that's the most wonderful part about my job. We do not aggressively annex. Everything is voluntary annex. So if you want to come be a part of the town and the town provides you with water, sewer, trash pickup, and an award-winning police department, we welcome you to the town. Yes?
Steve, how do you motivate the voters and the citizens of Lexington to support what you and the city council are trying to do?
Well, I think just actually doing what you say you're going to do is the biggest part of it. My goal when I took over in office was to change the conversation in Lexington. I had a restaurant downtown Columbia. I was downtown for 16 years, and I would walk up to tables, get into a conversation. They'd ask me where I'm from. I'd say Lexington, and they would actually cringe. And I knew Lexington as a great place to live, and when they cringed, it really kind of hurt. So I dug into it a little bit, find out why they were cringing, decided to get involved and change that conversation. We did that. I had a front page above the fold article in the state newspaper about some positive work that we did in Lexington, and when I saw it in my driveway, I picked it up and slammed it like I'd scored a touchdown. I just celebrated. Right? My neighbors probably thought I was crazy. Yes, sir.
We all do think about traffic when we think about Lexington. That's the cringing is really related to how challenging it's been historically to go through that town, and so you're tackling that head on. I think is important. How do you get the word out? You have a big advertising campaign that's going to let everybody know that you can drive through in X amount of minutes versus last year at 2 hours?
We actually will. We will have an advertising campaign that goes along with each one of those 3 projects, and we will show people this is your 2 cents at work, because the hospitality dollars are dedicated only to traffic congestion reducing projects, period.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, we have time to go out of here with song. Doesn't that make everybody happy? So, our pianist, oh yeah, you want to, Carrie will tell you about next week. Carrie will tell you about next week's speaker.
So y'all will come back next week. We have Megan Stockhausen next week, from the Department of Commerce, and she's going to be doing an identity theft, online identity theft program. So I think everybody in this room can benefit from that. So come back and be here next week.